This is Chuck Worley with the 757 House Whisperer. Just want to introduce everybody tonight. We got Albin with Albinco. He's our home remodeler, home builder. If you got any questions on any of that stuff, you want to call in and challenge my experts. Try to make my experts scratch their head, not being able to figure out what's going on. Albin was under my house today. We were looking around, or I say we, he's skinnier than I am. And we found a tool that I'm getting ready to post up on Facebook that I got to tell you, made both of us scratch our head.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I mean, it looks like
some type of wrench or something.
Like a wrench that it is odd. It is really, we are still trying to figure out what this thing. My house was built in 1936, so we may have to go to Google Image or something and try to find a tool from 1936 that they used underneath the house. But it looks like maybe something that you could tighten down a jack, maybe potentially something like that. Yeah. But there's so many cool tools that we find. I know my dad is 78 now, and he's got so many cool tools that he used back in the day. Some of us will remember the slide rule, which we used. I don't remember using it in high school, but I do remember my dad using it when we were figuring out some stuff. He was a builder also. But yeah, this is Chuck Worley. I own Worley's Home Services. We do heating and air conditioning, electrical, plumbing, crawl space encapsulations, spray foam insulation, pretty much anything. Most people that know me know I'm a building science geek. And I just really, really like fixing houses and figuring out problems in houses. And my tagline is "Houses Talk to Me." The show is "Houses Talk to Us." So I'm going to introduce everybody. Albin is here with me tonight. I told you with Albinco. We had Cindy Raw last week with Alpha Pest Solutions. Tommy Hines, you'll hear his commercial a couple of times on here tonight. The perfect home remedy guy. He's the money guy that helps everybody get money to fix their houses, because unfortunately it's not free and inflation seems to be going the wrong way. So nothing seems to be going down anymore. Justin, he was supposed to be with us tonight, but he got sick and decided not to share his germs with us. So
thank you, Justin.
We do want to say thank you, Justin. And Mike Davenport with CVP Custom Vinyl Products, and he does all of our windows. Remember, we remind you every single week, call now. Call in the front of the hour. Try and get us to not be able to figure out something. We are so good at figuring out problems in houses, and I have put this team of experts together to really help the 757 homeowners. Because, everybody has seen Homes on Homes on, was that HGTV and fixing houses and problems. But most people don't even realize he's from Canada. And so he is up north. That man does not know what humidity is. And we figured that out watching that show when he started putting plastic behind the sheetrock when he was doing a bathroom. And I started twitching. I'm like, oh my God, I hope somebody in the South doesn't decide to put plastic. And why they do that is to stop infiltration, which 100% agree up north or even New York, somewhere where it's cold and humidity is not a thing. But the Mason-Dixon line, but us down south,
it depends on what zone you're from that everything is done differently in different areas. And we're definitely a unique 757 area as far as the zones and the climate that, the different weather conditions we get and all that stuff. And most of it involves humidity.
Yeah. And I just want to remind you, 627-7979. 627-7979. Call in the front of the hour so we can get to your question. Sometimes we have 2 or 3, and then sometimes we got 8, and we can't get to all the callers. So definitely call in the front. Why do we exist? Why did I come up with this crazy idea, the 757 House Whisperer? It's to really kind of brand the idea of fixing houses as possible. And there are good contractors out here that will take care of your house, that will do a good job. We all do business with each other. Pyramid just fixed my commercial property, had a roof leak and came out fixed. Albin's over here trying to help me with my remodel on my house. You found a really good heating and air, electrical and plumbing guy for my house.
Yes, for sure.
Did you find a good?
Covered.
We want to make sure I get a good contractor over to handle all that.
I think I got
because I still think you fear Julie, and so
what was that number? I'm gonna call in and talk to this guy right now.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. So, he's not too pretty. He's got a face for radio, but so remember Worley's Home Services, heating and air, electrical and plumbing. So, but yeah, why do we exist? I really came up with this public service announcement, public service show. How can I help people in the 757? And, me, Albin, Cindy, Mike Davenport, I always joke him because he's an old man on the show. He's longer in the tooth than all of us. And why I say that is that we've all been helping people one at a time. I mean, I've been in 3 to 5, 10 houses in a day. It's exhausting trying to help people figure out their homes, figure out problems in their house. And by you guys calling in and asking questions about your house, some crazy things happening. I got moisture, I got sweat, I got a condensation, I got a roof leak, I got these problems. And you call in and ask these questions about your specific house. You don't realize it, but you are helping thousands of other people listening to help them figure out problems in their house. And what that means is you call in with a duct problem. I explain that duct problem to you. That makes, oh man, Chuck, that makes perfect sense. I've been doing that one-on-one for the past 25 years. And, like I said, I joked Mike, because he's 72. He's been doing it for 50 years.
Yeah.
So actually it's not true. It's probably in the 40s because he had to go to Virginia Tech and get that degree and all that. So he's a smart kid.
He's a walking book of knowledge.
He really is, man. He's probably forgotten more than I'll ever know. So, but that's what I surrounded myself with. I realized even in my personal business, I realize I'm only as strong as my weakest link. So surrounding myself with guys who are incredibly smart at their trade, whether it's HVAC or electricians. I have smarter electricians than me. I have smarter plumbers than me. I have smarter HVAC guys than me. It's surrounding yourself with good people that character and integrity matter. They do the right thing. I don't have to worry about if I had a problem with something that was done. Companies are not perfect, but what they do, good companies, is they do the right thing. And my company personally, Worley's Home Services, we are in over 100 houses a day, different houses. We got, 70, 80, 80 some employees now. There's no way everything's going to go perfect every single day. It could be this, it could be that. It's, hey, guy forgot his tool and his, left it on the front porch. It could be like something simple or, a fingerprint on the wall. Like something it can't go perfect every single day in 100 different houses. So the good companies and the bad companies, when there is a situation, those are the ones that go back. I had a customer that we had dropped a screw in her house, and it was not good because it fell. It was in the playroom, and I'm telling on myself because we're not in a perfect business, right? Everybody has a bad day or slow day. Guy, it fell out of his pocket or something, was in the baby room, and she lost her mind, which I'd be devastated if something happened with that kid. They picked up the screw or whatever, but she was just, upset, which I 100% agree with her being upset, but she's just like, I feel like I got, scorched by the company. I'm trying to remember the exact word that, this just was so horrible. And I said, ma'am, let me tell you a horrible story about a contractor. Me, Damon, Mike, Albin, we could tell you stories. And I told her this story about a very good friend of mine. He was a builder. I don't do new construction stuff. So he called this new construction. Guy goes out to give him a heating and air. It was like a $30,000 job. It was a brand new install. It was a big 2-system. It was a big house, right? So anyway, he does this installation. He takes $20,000 from my friend, shows up for about a week, disappears. And I call that ghosting. He disappears. So he calls me. He's like, Chuck, I got half the ductwork in the attic, half the duct in the crawl. The outdoor unit's sitting outside. I don't know. So he calls me up. He has to spend $30,000 again, right? Spends $30,000. He never gets that 20 grand back. It's gone.
Gone forever.
It's gone. That is a bad contractor. So when you put things in perspective for people, it's like, look, things are not going to go perfect, but the company that calls you back spends time on the phone. They call back and said, look, I even called back personally because I felt so bad about this screw falling. It was in the playroom. The furnace was in the playroom, which, number one, the heating and air guy that did that needs to be punched in the eye. But I think what happened was they converted a garage, and it was, they converted that to a playroom. And so it really, out of 100 houses, probably one house is going to be built like that. But again, it's, of course, we want to make it right, go back and take care of it and all that. So, but my point of story is not to, that Homer had every right to be upset, but we came back, we got rid of the screw, we took care of it. We actually gave her free tune-ups for the year because, we felt horrible, So bad things can happen in contracting, but there are really bad contractors. And what I wanted to do was kind of put a group of contractors together that I trusted, that will do a good job, that are not perfect, that are going to, things go wrong every day, right? So I had a pastor tell me one time, he said, Chuck, you know how to screw up a perfectly good church? And I said, well, no, I don't do church. I do church, but I don't make church. I don't build churches. He goes, put people in it. I said, oh, is that right? Yeah. So how you screw up a perfectly good church is put people in it. Same thing with business, right? Mm-hmm. So, which is why I created my 10 commandments of a Worley's team member. 10 commandments. There's a character, integrity, doing the right thing. You got to have commandments in your business, and you got to have a line in the sand that says, I'm not going to hire below this. This is a character guide. This is what I tell all these kids coming up that I go to these high schools and teach. Look, go to trades. You don't have to go to college if you don't want to. Don't tell your parents I told you that, but you can make really good money in the heating and air trades in the industry. You don't have to go to college if you don't want to. Don't tell them Chuck said that, but some people are not built for college. I wasn't. I went to Norfolk State. I failed out of Norfolk State. Some of you guys know my story. I was dyslexic. I failed 6th grade. I failed my senior year at high school English at Norfolk Catholic. I was not built for school and sitting in a classroom, but you put something in my hands, man, I'm gonna build it. I'm gonna figure it out, So so these trade schools are fantastic, but I tell these kids all the time, if you have character, integrity, and do the right thing, I can teach you how to fix a heat pump. I can teach you how to fix electrical, plumbing. Albin can tell you how to run a 2x4 correctly. I can build a wall or foundation stuff. I can teach you that stuff. What I can't teach you is character, integrity, and doing the right thing.
Yes, that's definitely the case.
Yeah. So, hey, we're getting ready to break, but 627-7979. The House Whisperer is 757-955-9415. The website is 757housewhisperer.com. But that's kind of us. Just want to, how much time we got? Okay, yeah. So we can just go to break now and come back, but call in now, 627-7979. If you could call in so we can answer your questions. I've got a couple people that already texted me some questions, so I do have a couple already. All right, thanks. Back in hot. Make sure you remember that phone number is 627-7979. This is the 757 House Whisperer Show. I want to make sure I introduce everybody. This is Chuck Worley with Worley's Home Services.
And I'm Albin with Albinco. I do anything remodel. You need a new house. You need some type of renovation, whether it be bath or kitchen or anything like that?
Yeah, that's us. And then we got Cindy with Alpha Pest Solution.
We got Justin with Pyramid Roofing.
And we got Mike with
CVP Custom Vinyl Products and Windows.
Did I say Cindy? And then we got Tommy Hines with the Perfect Home Remedy guy. Did we get them all, Damien? All right, so I'm going to pop out a couple trivia questions to kind of get some of these callers rolling. First question for all you NASCAR fans. Danica Patrick became the first female driver to take the lead in the storied Annapolis 500. How old was she and what year was that? So that's the first one. Then for all us old timers who remember the John Wayne, what year was John Wayne born and how old was he when he died? Those are the two. And my dad was a Navy Seabee, and he was a Bucks builder chief senior. And my mom made me watch the John Wayne movie. Actually, that could be a trivia question too. What was the name of the John Wayne movie about the Seabees, the Navy Seabees? And then what Cheers actor? This one's kind of negative, but what Cheers actor? Cheers, the sitcom in the 80s, right? Was Cheers in the 80s? The bar. I can't tell you the actors because then you'll guess the thing. But the Cheers actor's father, who was arrested for murder, and not only for murder, he killed a judge. So wow. The actor's father, one of the actors. So I'll give you a hint. Shelley Long was the owner of the bar. So Cheers. I'm trying to remember something. Norm was on there, and the guy was the post office guy. I can't remember his name. But anyways, the name of the actor whose father actually killed a judge and was arrested was he died in prison too. So,
no idea.
But yeah, some upbringing, but he turned out pretty well.
What are they going to get for answering these questions?
So you will get a gift card from a coffee house, more than likely Starbucks. But yeah, probably Starbucks. And then that'll be a gift card for anybody that calls in and asks a question or answers one of my trivia questions. So Danica Patrick, first female driver to lead in an Indianapolis 500. What year was that and how old was she? And then what year was John Wayne born? And then how old was he when he died? And then the Cheers actor who had a father who was arrested for murder. Actually spent a lot of time in prison. So, but anyway, 627-7979. Call in with any questions about your house, any problems with your house. I do have a question that was texted to us after the show last week, and it was actually a Peggy from Facebook. She said, I have a live cat. I live with a cat, and I have a ant problem. What is the pest-friendly solution to do this? Which I thought was a fantastic question because
I hadn't thought about that. You do in some regards, but I mean, yeah.
So Cindy responded. I thought it was a great question. Like I said, anything having to do with any questions about your house. So Cindy with Alpha Pest Solution called back last week with the response. She said they have bait that they use, and it is applied into the cracks and crevices that the cats cannot get to, which I thought, well, that's
and most of the ants will take that and they'll stay in the cracks and crevices and go back to
the nest. Yeah. So all the chemicals that Alpha Pest Solution uses is all approved by the EPA, and they're perfectly safe for the pets. And she said small children. So I'm not sure if it's safe for big children, but So anyway, I thought that was a great question that Peggy called in last week, that put on Facebook. So thank you for that question, Miss Peggy. And anybody else got any questions, call in about your house we will have answers. So call in with your questions and we will have answers. So again, this is Albin with Albinco, answering questions about any construction, and then me on heating and air, electrical, and plumbing. So call in with your questions, 627-7979. Hey, this is Chuck Worley with the 757 House Whisperer Show. Waiting on your calls to call in, 627-7979. We need some callers about problems with houses. We have got Albin in here with any construction issues, any questions about construction. I mean, gutters, roofs, windows, heating and air conditioning, electrical, plumbing. Any problems, crawl space encapsulation, sweat, condensation, humidity, mold. I am a building science geek. There is nothing, any questions that we cannot answer. That is why I've surrounded myself with a whole bunch of experts about problems in their houses.
You got leaning walls, sagging floors. You got, piers that look like they're not doing their job. You can give us a call. We can try to help you out with that too.
Why don't we talk about sagging in the 757 House Whisperer's house?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, we can.
Yeah,
well, let's go.
I got a question, Albin. Should my floors sag in a 1936 farmhouse? Should they sag?
Well, here's the thing. Most floor systems are going to be spaced at 16 on center, depending on the actual spans. And then of course you've got to take into consider how deep those joists are going to go. And this is all kind of geeky stuff, kind of like when you talk about science and building science and all that. Yeah. But yours are spaced a little bit too far apart for whoever put this house together.
In 1936.
Yeah, exactly.
They were built different.
They may not have actually had a span chart, and so whoever put the house together thought this will be sufficient. And
it wasn't built by the Amish, but it was built by a farmer.
Yeah, I mean the lumber is holding up well.
Well, it's real wood. It's
they needed two inches by 8 inches.
That's true actual 2 inches by 8 inches. Yeah. And most of you that don't know this, a 2x8 is a 1 5/8 by
1.5 by 7 1/4.
Right.
Yeah. So
which in my math is less than 2x8.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of figured out where the sweet spot is to save on materials, and the lumber mills don't have to run so much material through and can charge you just as much.
So instead of increasing the price, they drop the quality of the wood.
Yeah, right? Now they've got to the point where they can't really save any more on it. I mean, this is kind of set.
Yeah, because the houses will fall.
Yeah. So they're not taking much more off of that. So they go to the engineered products. That's where we get into the TJIs and all the different things that have been spin-offs to figure out how can we get further spans
with less wood.
So,
and that's why you kind of started doing trusses and stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah, well, it started back in 1993. I started doing metal trusses. Somebody offered me a job that went to my church, and it kind of just kept going from there, and then worked into construction and building houses and doing modular construction. And we've been into dabbled in all kinds of stuff and have a lot of expertise in many different areas. So
the specialty trusses, what we're talking about there,
metal trusses.
Yeah, so you can build, like, if the span is, let's say a building is 70 feet long, you can't really span that with a normal 2x12. 15.
Well, you could. It's just going to be an extremely heavy truss, and you start getting into those type spans, you're probably getting into some type of fire rating stuff that you might be contending with when you're doing air conditions, whether you have to have some type of maybe fire dampers in your duct work and stuff like that. So
anything
the combustibility of it, when you start talking about it, you've got to deal with that. So you get into wood trusses and those type spans, you're probably dealing with a commercial building that falls under different fire, the fire marshal's going to be looking for different products in there. Most of that's set by your architects. Your architects, they're going to look at the occupancy rating of the structure and the use case of the structure and determine, does it need to be metal? Does it need to be wood? What type of fire rating? And a lot of, you get into the industrial environment, you don't want those type of wood trusses in that industrial environment. So you go to a steel building and or the cold form metal trusses, those type things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's we can geek out on this stuff.
Yeah, we can for sure.
Let's go back to our 1936 farmhouse. Now, I bought, some of you guys know me, and some of you guys have been to my farm party, which is October 19th this year. I'll start promoting that. We got a customer appreciation for Worley Home Services clients. Come to the farm party on October 19th. We'll have 400 or 500 people here. It's oyster roast, and we'll have plenty of food and beer. It's going to be great. But the house, the farmhouse, as some of y'all have seen, it's a 1936 farmhouse. It was about 600 square foot. They had 7 children raised in this Taylor farmhouse. And I'm on the old Taylor Farm Lane, the old Taylor Farm in York County. I've got 5 acres of the 100 acres. A builder built all around me, but I got the only 5 acres left of actual land. And so they built on another addition in the 80s, which I'm sure no permits were ever pulled on this house. And then it has a sunroom on the back. So 3 additions, 3 different levels of floor.
Yeah.
Like we had to I had to build up the sunroom so it was the same height as the rest of the house. I literally had to cut a 2x4 down to 2x3 so that it would be, and put a floor across all of it so it looked the same level. Yeah, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. But all the floor is pretty much the same level now. So, but yeah, so kind of explained about, so back then in the 1936, we had 24 on center instead of 16 on center now.
Yeah.
So what that's telling us is the span was so much that the plywood is not rated for that. The flooring is not rated for that. It needs to basically split the distance, I guess.
You either need to sister more basically sister another joist to the other joist, but that doesn't take care of the problem with the plywood needing to span 24 inches. Although this floor here is actually 1x6s laid down and laid at a 45-degree angle. And then I believe later on somebody's just added some plywood to the top of that. So I don't have enough information to know whether or not those 1x6s will, suffice. Especially if you're talking about laying tile over that, then you've got a lot of deflection where your floor bounces and all that stuff. So yeah, those type things, yeah, you're gonna want to. If you're going to, you have the same conditions, you're going to want to add those joists in there, get somebody that knows what the heck they're doing. But even if they add them, I think I know a guy. But if you add them, you still may not be like adequate for actually putting tile in that room because you're going to get cracks and stuff all the like weight. That. Yeah, it's just a lot of weight, and you're going to have a lot of bounce in the floor. And so, yeah, you're just going to have a lot of problems with it if you try to put tile over that. So you really got to know what you're doing to get the room ready for tile when you've got an old structure.
Yeah, it was pretty cool being under the house. We got a mechanical engineer to come out and kind of draw everything up and make sure, see what's going on. And then I always we're practical engineers, actual engineering. Like there's engineering, and then there's installation of engineering. So sometimes that differs a little bit. So I got an engineer to come out and take a look at the foundation to kind of get his opinion on what really needs to be done. And then actual engineering, the application, I call it application engineering, trying to get the engineering that they're talking about and actually make it work on each house. So sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't work. So anyway, we're yeah, I just saw that. Hey, looks like we got a caller up, Charles in Norfolk, it looks like.
Yes, hi. I have a home that's about 60 years old, and the ductwork in the attic is fine, except the wrapping seems to be a little bit deteriorated. It's metal ductwork. And I have a question about, is there any reason that I can't rewrap that or wrap more insulation around it versus replacing the whole ductwork?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that all the time. So is it actual metal? Do you have flex or is it actually metal hard pipe?
I think it's metal hard pipe.
Yeah. So nowadays, everything, the EPA is making these houses more energy efficient. We have this thing called duct blasting, where when we do new installation of ductwork, in order for it to pass inspection, we actually have to do duct blasting, which is a less than a 2% duct loss on the duct system. I can guarantee you that metal on metal, the tape is probably peeled off. There's no way that thing is probably losing 40% in efficiency. If you go to the EPA website, they actually have a percentage. It says 90% of all duct systems are losing at minimum 30% in efficiency. 90% of every duct system, so that's 90 out of 100 duct systems that they test, they are losing 30% or more of the airflow out of these nooks and crannies in the ductwork. And if you could picture, radio is great for one thing, but showing a picture, it's not, right? So when you bend metal against metal, there is absolutely no way that is a perfect seal, because, unless it's a factory cut, right? So when you bend metal against metal, there's going to be leaking. It's impossible not to leak, right? So now we have these things called mastic. It's some guys call it pookie, but it's basically a mud, kind of like a plaster mud, if you know what plaster looks like. So or like if you're doing drywall or what's the word I'm looking for? Drywall.
Joint compound.
Drywall mud.
Yeah, drywall mud is the word I was looking for. So I love being 55. You just forget words that you say every day. I'm like, I know that word. Why can't I get it out? So sheetrock was the word I was really looking for. So sheetrock mud or drywall mud, it kind of looks like that and goes and seals all the joints where those flex lines actually go into now. The hard pipe is not used anymore just because it's so labor intensive and cumbersome. And to be honest with you, it will never pass a duct blast thing, because metal against metal, it's going to leak. So the flex lines are made in a factory, so they're designed to not leak. So yes is the answer if you're going to do it yourself. But if you're asking for a contractor, the labor rates are so expensive now with our guys. I used to be able to pay guys, $15, $20, $25 an hour. Our professional mechanics are making $40, $50 an hour. They're making, plus 401ks and health insurance. And it's just too labor intensive to pull the old insulation off and put labor on, or put insulation back on. And it's going to leak. Like there's just no way that we can make it tight enough.
And most of the time when you're doing that type of duct work, Chuck, I imagine that you're prefabbing it, whether you're prefabbing a lot of it outside and bringing it in and placing it in position versus trying to deal with wrapping it in the attic.
In place, because of course it's laying on on the floor upstairs
or suspended, which means you got to work around all the suspension system.
Yeah. And in 1960, they didn't have the computers that we have now, where we have CAD drawings and load calculations, where I can tell you to the CFM how much air needs to go in that 10 by 10 room. Now, most guys, that when I was coming through the trade, one duct here, one duct here, one duct here, they just kind of walk through the house, two ducts here. I'm talking about registers.
All your approaches have changed.
Everything is computerized now.
Your flex ducts, you no longer are beelining to the actual register in the ceiling. You got to make a certain approach to.
You got to do airflow turns. You got to everything is computerized now, where we can tell you to the CFM, to the BTU of air conditioning or heating that we can put into the room. I've gone into houses where they had 7, 8, 9-year-old house systems, and the guy's like, I've had a couple of guys out say I need a new system. I'm like, the thing is working fine. Why don't we replace the ductwork? Because your problem when you called was you had airflow issues, not, the equipment is cooling.
You have enough tonnage. You've got the right fans. You've got all the
everything's working fine,
but your ductwork sucks.
Yeah, so I go and replace the ductwork, and they're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea that air was not blowing through this duct." I told my wife there was no ductwork, no airflow in this room. We replaced the ductwork, and with all these computerized code design stuff now, we pull permits to do it. It is awesome, the amount of airflow that you can get out of these systems. Because back in the 60s, it was, there's just, and I'll tell you this, in the 60s, guess what that was before? Air conditioning.
Yeah.
Air conditioning didn't get popular until the 70s. So in new construction, it definitely, air conditioning wasn't going in until the 70s. So
going back to this guy's question, I'm not an HVAC guy. I hire you to do the HVAC work. So you watch those YouTubes. I don't know if anybody, you can learn anything you want on YouTube.
You can.
And I'm telling you, sit down and watch a YouTube on ductwork, and it's like a 10 series video on how to properly connect ductwork and wrap ductwork and make sure it doesn't sweat, because you don't want it sweating underneath that insulation.
Absolutely.
What's the R value? How do you suspend it? How do you suspend it while you're wrapping it? There's so many things. So we're not trying to scare you away from tackling that yourself. We're just letting you know it's a big challenge if you're going to take that on.
And, anybody can install it, but can they install it right? I've got competitors that probably need to see that YouTube channel, but we go back on duct systems that were just slapped in. There's no main trunk. It's all Alflex. It's all Flex. Flex is great, but it's abused in our trade. Why? Because the tradesmen are just not around anymore. Now at Worley's, we're training every single week. We've got QA guys on job sites. We've got guys that design the ductwork, guys that used to be in the field I'm teaching them how to use these CAD designs. And they have practical information that they've been using for 10, 15 years. Now, when they go to the computer, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, everything's clicking.
They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. Why'd I put 2 ducts in that 10 by 10 room? Because there was a whole wall that was full of glass. Oh, because I needed more CFM and BTUs in that room to overcome that glass. And
you make a good point, Chuck, because, we a lot of these guys that are working the CAD systems, and I'm not talking, to anybody in particular, but they learned the CAD system, and that's all they've learned. They've never done any kind of practical application like you're talking about, but you're working from the other side, and I do the same thing. We're teaching young individuals everything hands-on in the field, and then we bring them up through the ropes and we teach them the other aspects. And now they're like, well, that's why we do it that way. And that things start to click. And now it's wonderful to see that process, but we're also kind of brag on ourselves right here, is to say, if you want a job done right, you want somebody that knows it in the field and knows it in the office, and the two are working like perfectly in harmony with each other to get the best product.
Yeah, I've got guys with college educations, that biology degrees and other degrees. They came to work for us because they couldn't make enough money in their trade. So they come into the trades, they got college degrees, they're smart as crap. I mean, I told you, my secret to success is hiring people smarter than me. And some of y'all have met my son. So, so it's really cool to watch these guys use their brains and see this practicality of hands-on of our business, and the two combining together, man, is
and
just
to see them successful in the field. You get this certain sense of satisfaction, just overwhelming satisfaction to see things click with these people, and they're like, "Hey, I'm in my element," you know.
And watching our guys, we don't like to hire outside of our trade. We are outside of our company. We like to promote within. We have got guys that started out. I've got one kid. He's almost 30. I shouldn't call him a kid, but anybody under 30 is a kid to me. So he comes in with a biology degree from Old Dominion, sharp kid. He wrestled with my son back in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And he comes in with a biology degree, wants to learn a trade because he just met his future wife, and they've been married now, wanted to buy a house. And he's like, man, I need a trade. So he comes to work. Watching that kid come through my company, man, he's like my little nephew, man. I just love that kid. Watching him go from not knowing anything to leading a crew, and now, being one of the best service techs, watching 30, 40-year-old guys call him with questions about problems and fixing heat pumps and fixing air conditioners. I'm so proud of him, man. Tyler is one of my favorite people.
That's awesome.
Just watching him kind of grow. Now he's like almost like a training technician for us. Like he's training the new guys coming in.
Well, you get that next step.
And he's in computers now. Like we're use Service Titan as our software. And now he's behind the scenes setting up pricing on Service Titan. And because he came through the field, now he's getting to use the college education he has now, 7 years later after he comes to work for us, starts working back up. And he's kind of not in management yet, but he's in like junior management with helping the guys and helping them, learn their trade and fixing heat pumps and air conditioners. It's really cool, man. Sorry, I get excited about my guys.
Yeah, it's just really exciting to see people get excited about their work, And so I hope we answered that guy's question. Yeah, feel free to tackle it. I'm sure if you watch enough YouTubes, you could figure it all out, make sure the insulation values are right. But it's just, all that stuff.
It's just going to be better. It's just going to be better. Just going to be better if you have it done perfectly, again, right, so you don't have to worry about that duct system. I believe we got a lifetime warranty on our duct system if you do it like we do it, pulling permits. And
depending on the attic size, I would say that Chuck could probably knock it out in a day or two.
Yep, that'd be a couple days, Thank y'all. Thanks for joining the 757 House Whisperer. This is Chuck Worley and Albin.
The preceding program is sponsored